Thank you. Good morning.
So everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the basic agenda. If anyone has anything to add or change, otherwise we'll get started with that. And before we get started, I just last month or a couple of weeks ago, Vice Mayor did a very nice tribute to Kent Greathouse, who was a member of the Winchester Mobile Home Park. Yeah, I keep wanting to say Urban Village, but that wasn't it. But yeah, he was a leader in that, and I'll let you say some words either now or during your time, Vice Mayor. But those were very moving, and he obviously was a leader in the community, and especially his community, in making the transition that they made in the last couple of years. So I just wanted to recognize him with that.
Yeah, I can speak to it right now, Ken. Yes, I had an opportunity to get to know Kent when I was campaigning, and spent a lot of time in that area. And obviously the displacement of the residents there at the mobile home park was a major issue. And I really got a chance to get to know Kent, work with his wife, Ruth. And it was really just he was such a just amazing person. His demeanor was always, very even and steady. And even when we were dealing with some very emotional and controversial and stressful issues, he didn't hesitate to express his opinion strongly, but he was always a gentleman. He was always respectful, and he was just a joy to work with. He and his wife, again, Ruth, and also the other residents of the Winchester Ranch Mobile Home Park. I mean, we were able to do something that was pretty amazing, and Kent was a big part of that, and he will be missed.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor. So now we'll go to the Treasurer's report. Jerry?
Did you mute it?
Yeah, you're married to Jerry. Maybe I can unmute him. Let's see if I can figure that out.
I'm on.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay. You're looking at the status there at 12/11 today. And if you look at the far right column and the bottom of that column, we're going to end up returning $944.66 of our grant. But those things happen. On the left side bottom, you see the fund balance, the accounting information. We have the remainder of cycle 3, which I just mentioned, and we have the movie fund of $631.98 and the unrestricted fund of $719. So we have a total fund balance and cash balance of $2295.67.
Go ahead, Jerry. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's excuse me. So that's the status as of right now. We are able to spend, actually, according to the revised budget, another $66.21 in meeting support if we need to, and we have 85 left over for driveway parties. And if anybody wants to do a neighborhood cleanup dumpster day, we have $793.45 there. So we can still do projects, but they all have the projects and the expenditures have to occur by or before 12/31/21. So we don't necessarily have to return the whole $944 if we can find appropriate events that we will hold in those 3 categories. Other than that, then we will return the $944.66. So that's the status there. Yesterday, I received notification. Ken, you might want to turn to the next, of the grant award for cycle 4, which covers the period of 1/1/22 through 12/31/22. We had asked for $3,000 and we got the full award. And the categories we specified are there across the top of the schedule. So you can see, then you can also see on the left below the cycle for awards for the other neighborhood associations who did file proposals for the grant. So I thought you'd be interested in that information. The membership, that's pretty much designated and will be spent fairly soon in the new year. The board meetings, this would involve the refreshments that we have, any supplies we have, paper supplies, whatever that else we may have. We have also web maintenance going to the right there of $140, which should cover our website maintenance requirement. We have $200 for the annual picnic. We determined that we generally spend a little bit less than that. So we should be okay there. Driveway parties, in the conversations and emails that I had with the board, we decided that 5 parties at $80 per each, equaling $400 would probably suffice. I think we had 4 parties and 1 cancellation this last year. So based upon that, we determined 400 was appropriate. Then dumpster day, we can have, we budgeted for 2 dumpster days at $800 a piece, which should be sufficient for 1 dumpster per event. Dumpsters run about $700 to $800, or no, they run about $700, I believe. So you have money extra left over for supplies, coffee, donuts, all that kind of thing. Total of $3,000 on the far right. As far as the annual picnic, or rather the driveway parties and the dumpster day, generally what we've done there is those funds are available on a first come, first served basis, meaning you have to complete the project with all the appropriate paperwork, and then you will get it reimbursed. And in the past, I've tried to manage that so that not just one neighborhood association gets all of the money. And that's how it's generally worked out in the past. So, and that would go for the dumpster day as well as the driveway parties. We need to have the event and complete the paperwork and submit the paperwork, and then the reimbursement occurs. Are there any questions?
I did have a couple of questions, Jerry, and a comment. The first question is, how does this grant compare to our last grant?
The last grant was $3,400. So I peeled it back because we have been tending to spend less and less over the last, I think it was, well, cycle 2 and cycle 3. I think cycle 2, we returned over $1,000. So I wanted to be, cognizant of that. Didn't want to. I could have asked for $5,000, but it's a little embarrassing when you don't spend the money and you have to turn it back in, and you obligate it, and you essentially you're over obligating the money of the entire city grant. So I wanted to be reasonable in my request.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other comment is, you notice Strawberry Park is not in the list you have there.
Right.
We actually chose not to apply for a grant because we were returning almost all of the money. We primarily do driveway parties, and the people hosting those really are happy to support the cost of them. And, we do them as a potluck, so the costs are pretty minimal. So we actually consciously chose not even to apply for a grant this year.
Okay, well, that also reminds me of an issue that came up in our discussions over the last few months, that it would be, I think there would be an interest for the neighborhood associations to learn how to do a grant proposal. And I think we can, and I'd be glad to do that as a little project that we could insert into one of our meetings. The other issue is that the idea behind the proposals too was always to get the neighborhood associations to a point where they didn't need the grant money and were self-sustaining. And Lynn Haven's been able to do that, our neighborhood association. And so we have not felt the need. Plus, it requires a lot of paperwork on the part of the treasurer. So that's another motivation in our case, anyway. Any other questions? Yes.
Just a quick follow-up on that. If you do a tutorial on how to do a grant, I would strongly encourage you to do it in a written form that can be on our website and accessible to people, because people might miss a meeting where we present it. So if it can be something people can grab and digest offline.
Ken
Yeah.
Podorczak actually had was part of the group that did present a very good tutorial. It showed you each box where to write and follow along with it. So it was really pretty easy. I'm not sure how transferable it is to a website, but we could ask him to get it. Murdoch did not apply for any money this year either. Our picnic was pretty much self-covered it, and we didn't have one last year, so we have money from the other time. And if we have a picnic this year, we'll cover it with the donations that people come. Thank you, Jerry, for all your work on this.
Yeah, yes, thanks. Oh yes, Ken Podgorczyk, who is, I can't remember his title now, but he's head of UNSCC, does hold at least 2 sessions, live sessions that people can attend every year to learn how to do this. So if I did something like this, this would be in addition to Ken's efforts. So ideally, people who want to learn how to do it, and it's not that difficult, should attend Ken's presentations that he holds each year. So that's another aspect we need to factor in.
So I'm sorry to talk so much here, Jerry. What we should do is put a blurb on every email that I send out. We should just have a little blurb there on when the next one of those trainings is. Maybe we can work on that.
Right. Yes, we should let the neighborhood associations know and to assure them that this is not rocket science, that they can do it. It's online. It's fairly straightforward. And so I think they should be encouraged to consider doing this for themselves. So there are a lot of different things that we can do, including your suggestion, which I think is a good one. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. There's a lot of work that goes into that and all the numbers. I realized that I think we missed the minute meetings, Steve, as far as approving the minute meetings.
I wasn't going to let you get away with it.
Okay. Did you want to go ahead and do that, Steve, or?
Yeah, I think you had the minutes on the website. Is that correct? I think
they are on there. Yep. So should I pull them up or something, or if
I don't think we need to. I think we just need a motion to approve.
That's what I was thinking.
I'll move to approve the minutes, Gary Cunningham.
This is Doris. I'll second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor. What's the best way to do this, Steve? What have we done in the past? Have everyone.
Yeah, we're on.
Well, actually, it's probably better if there are any objections, if anyone objects. How about that?
Hang on,
Yeah.
we're on Zoom now. Does Zoom have the ability for us to do this in a little more formal way? I'm not a Zoom wizard.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Can't just have all in favor raise their hand.
Okay, the problem is a lot of people have their cameras off. If
No,
everyone
I
could
mean-
turn
I
their
mean
camera on.
with Zoom. with
Oh,
the
yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can just raise your hand with Zoom. Just click on the
with your
icon.
Zoom, yeah.
And the icon is,
Where?
oh, no, where did I
Now,
go?
where's the icon?
Under,
Yeah.
Under reactions on the
Under
bottom. bar.
reactions,
Oh, there it is.
Raise your hand.
Wait, I think I raised my hand. No, I didn't. There it is. No, but the things keep moving around on me. Every time
Yeah.
I'm ready to raise it, I think.
Barb was
Uh,
a nonconformist.
Yeah. Oh, did she do
That's all
something
that
else?
showed
Gives a
up.
thumbs up, same
That's
thing,
all that showed up on mine.
that works.
Doug,
Okay.
you didn't, Doug, you didn't either.
Yeah, I think mine looks different or something. Anyway, I think we have approval, so.
That looks like a quorum,
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
a majority.
So next one was, Gary, you have a couple things to report from the neighborhood commission.
right, yeah, thank you. So every year we go out with, it's part of our charter on the neighborhood commission. We go to the council with budget recommendations for the upcoming budget. Last month, we had a great presentation by Jim Shannon, who's the budget department manager. And over the course of the years, we've developed a good working relationship with Jim Shannon. And he spent the majority of the meeting going over the impacts the neighborhood commission has made based on their recommendations to the budget. And he showed specific examples of how our recommendations were filtered up to them and they were considered for incorporation in the budget. And some of them, it's in my report that I provided. We're in code enforcement, $5.4 million for a cash program, trash encampment, illegal dumping, things like that. Public safety, Project Hope got 515,000. And then under transportation, the traffic safety, illegal road shows got 500,000 based on, some of the recommendations that we made from the neighborhood committee. There were others, but these were fairly significant. And so I'm asking, and I have asked Steve and Ken to distribute. Each year I request inputs from us, from D1 for the budget in the areas of code enforcement, public safety, and transportation that I can forward to the rest of the commission for our budget letter. And over the years, we have gotten some very good recommendations for the budget. So I put out a little flyer there. I think it's been distributed on the website. Please send that to me. I'd like to get it by next week if I could, so that I can formulate my report to the commission from D1. But it is important, the recommendations that we do, and and they will, be considered for incorporation in the budget. And it's also timing. Now, you need to get those recommendations made before they really start gelling the budget and getting it set, and that'll have the impact. The other thing is on the oversight committee for Measure B, which I'm chair of that. We're going to do our report that's in process now. Hopefully that'll be completed in January. This is a 15-year tax measure. It's general fund. We're in there for 5 years now. We get approximately $40 million a year. And so 5 years now, we get about $200 million we spent. We get another 10 million. That's another $400 million roughly. And I'm putting together a 5-year summary that'll be in addition to our annual report. But I'm putting together a 5-year summary on what we've done so far in the 5 years, what we've accomplished with that $200 million. The concern we have in the commission or in the committee, the oversight committee, is that increasingly every year, more and more Measure B funds are spent for personnel funding, not on projects like a fire station or things like that, tangible items, communication system, equipment. So we're funding like right now, like 60 every year. This is talking, I don't have my notes in front, around 60 police officers. We fund 60 police officers each year. The commission, our committee feels, we're considering this in our report, that each department, fire, police, should get a budget for whatever their man loading requirements are. And it should not be coming out of Measure B, but we're looking at that. So that's the consideration there. The oversight committee for this Measure B is from the Neighborhood Commission. And I'd like to segue, if I could, to Measure T, which is a bond issue. And last year I was chair of that oversight committee. And this year we did a one-year term. So I'm still on the committee, but I'm no longer chair. And that is an appointed committee. The dynamics of that committee are totally different than on the Neighborhood Commission. Neighborhood Commission were elected. On the Measure T bond issue were appointed, and good people on there, but different paradigm than the Neighborhood Commission. Last year we had input and we got things going. This year I have concerns that it's going more towards a rubber stamp. Like, here's the data coming in, and all you guys have to do is, look at it and approve it. We had a meeting this month where we wanted to schedule a meeting in January to go over the more of the information in depth, and we got kind of stonewalled that we don't have the resources, this and that, a lot of stuff. Anyway, I pushed back on that, and we will have a meeting in January to go over the issues that were coming in. We're supposed to have our report ready for January, and we're supposed to deliver a report in January without having a meeting to really go over the report. We didn't do that last year. When I was chair, we had several meetings to go over that report, discuss it in detail among the members. So I got some concerns going forward that we're not getting, they just wanted to have a little different thing. So, but more on that maybe next month or our next meeting, D1LG meeting, I can report on that. But it's just interesting to see those two meetings, how the dynamics of those two meetings are, one being elected, one being appointed. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you. Please get your budget information to me. I would appreciate it. It really does matter. And we do from, especially D1, it's great. We go up there in D1, here's D1 stuff, and over the years it's been good stuff. So
And
thank you.
What was the due date for those inputs?
I'd like to get it by the 15th. I really would, because get the holidays. I got domestic tranquility issues. It would help me out. Okay.
Gary, is there a place where we can see what D1 submitted in the past, kind of get an idea of what people are?
I can go through my stuff. Yeah. I can go through there. And, I get a whole bunch of stuff and I have to filter it because, I asked for the three areas specifically, and I get a lot of stuff and I filter it a little bit so that it's, specific to the, code enforcement, transportation, public safety, that kind of thing. So I get a lot of stuff that's, I want to say coarse input, and then submit it to the Neighborhood Commission, but it's all good. We're talking, one of the things I've been hearing through some of the neighborhood meetings I'm going to is 311. Some, people have varying degrees of success or not success with 311. We have money in Measure B and other fund. We can make a recommendation to improve 311, but what specifically would you like to see improved in 311? See, that's where our value is. When we go back to the council, we say, we would like to see 311 improved in this area. It's a specific item, not just a general improved 311. Well, what do you mean improved 311? So get these specifics of what you've encountered. Have you called 311? You get a good result, a bad result. What would you have liked to have? Something. I'm just throwing out 311, but that's, things like that. The sideshows, what can we do to improve the sideshow? Speed bumps? I mean, traffic light? I don't know. But what specifically do you think would make an improvement to some issue that you'd like to see improved in the city? That's where the meat is. And that's where, when we go to the council with our, we do have specifics that we'd like to see implement, not just generalities. Okay.
So by the way, in the chat menu, you'll see Gary's 2 reports for Measure T and the Neighborhood Commission, as well as the third document, or the last link on the string is the letter with his contact information asking for input for the report he's just talking about. Bob, did you have your hand raised?
Sure. Gary, that's a great report. Thank you. You were talking about, well, Measure B goes to the general fund. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
So the general fund, you really have very limited control. It's entirely up to council what they want to do with it.
Good point. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And what happens now, I don't know if 2022 we're going to have any ballot measures for bonds or taxes. And what they've done is they do these focus groups when they put out a ballot measure, and they do some testing and, you know, what would get favorable and approved. Well, it's common knowledge up there that if they include an oversight committee in the ballot language, it gets a favorable response for passage. Okay, so they incorporate that in the language, and then they do the ballot, you know, and then they set up an oversight committee, but it doesn't function. So it's there for window dressing. Well,
Exactly.
when it came out of the neighborhood commission, which is elected, people wanted an effective oversight commission. And I got elected chair of that. And I didn't make a lot of friends up there, okay, with the city, because I got that same argument. It's a general fund, and that ballot measure language is only for guidance because the general fund. Well, we pushed back on that. And we got some very, very good cooperation with Jim Shannon from the budget department. And in 5 years, he's worked with us. And we do get some real good traceability and accounting of how Measure B funds are spent in the general budget. Okay, so that's a major improvement on Measure B. And we do get the tracking, and we do have credibility where that money goes. That's why we are concerned with the level of funding that's going to personnel for funding, like the police department.
Well, that was my second question there, Gary, was, you know, you're talking about the difference between operations and capital. And you're saying the money is sort of shifting from capital to operations. Is there any guidance in Measure B on that?
No.
When you put it into the general fund, you know, but, you know, annual budget sausage making.
Yep.
Where, you know, you really, you don't know where it's going to end up, but your voice is probably fairly limited. You know, is there any guidelines within Measure B that council should be abiding by as far as
no, but
capital versus operations?
What they have done, because we worked out this thing with the budget department, they've come up with an MBA management budget. I forget what it's called. It's an MBA, but anyway, that specifically shows allocations for Measure B funding. And the agreement we more or less have worked out with the budget department is that the Measure B funds are supposed to be like plus ups, what I used to call when I was working when I was doing my budgeting. We had a regular budget that we would get every year or for doing things. And then there would be a plus up, which would be additional funds to do an additional task. And so that's kind of what they've done for Measure B. They set up this MBA with specific items that Measure B funds are going to be spent on. And that's what we track, and that's what we do our oversight. Right. It's a compromise. It's a compromise. It's not like in the bond measure where each one you have earmarked items in that bond measure that are supposed to be taken care of, like the roads and bridges and replacing all the street lights and things like that. You don't have that in Measure B, but there are 4 items in Measure B that they were supposed to address. And so we do get that measure type of accounting in there, and it works. And it, like I said, you're right. It's a compromise. It's not perfect, but it's miles ahead of where we were at day one when we first started that committee. So
you sound like you're doing the best you can in circumstances. So thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to just say, also, I want to thank Gary and commend him for all this hard work as well. He's spot on that that money is not supposed to be used just for general fund expenditures. It's supposed to be dedicated to what the voters voted for. And Gary's been diligent to make sure that that happens. And, you know, I would say, Gary, that if you need additional support, reach out to me, but you're already doing it. So just so you know that continue to do that, so we can make sure that the voters' wishes are carried out through our expenditures.
Thank you. And I just want to add one thing. Jim Shannon, I must say, Jim Shannon, in the beginning, when the year one or so, I won't say who the players were at year one from the city, but Jim Shannon, we had a real good conversations with him, understands where we're coming from, and he cooperated and really has done things. I don't think he had to, but he wanted to make this work, and I really want to acknowledge him for that you know, he didn't have to. And so a lot of this success of how we're moving forward here and improving that committee is due to his involvement in that. So, but you know, so the city is doing something.
So thank you, Gary, for what you're doing here and for your presentation. So the next, we're kind of running about 10 minutes behind here. The next thing on our agenda is the nominations, and everyone can see the screen share, I assume. So I just took out a little bit of the from the bylaws. Just, you know, everyone can read this, but basically we're pretty much. I think everyone is up for re-election or terming out, I should say. And so I think we're looking at all the seats being open. Is that true, Doris? Or are you, I forgot when you were elected. Were you elected 2 years ago?
No, I've got time. I came partway through, so I still am on.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, because the term of office shall be for a two-year term, conditional to active members as defined by Article 4. Yeah, so basically the key thing is you can't have, you know, kind of two people from the same neighborhood association. And it's November, so nominations may be made from the floor for any member of the general members. And then next month will be the election. So
we should probably clarify Doris's role.
Yeah.
So that one is not
like just a member, a side member, not a
She's been an at-large member for the last
large, yeah.
Yeah.
And getting large during COVID, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, I guess it's committee member, I guess is what it is called.
Right, committee member. Okay, so are we going to take nominations now?
Yeah, let's do that.
I want to nominate Ramona. She's unfortunately unable to be here. She has accepted if she is anyway, she's willing to accept the nomination for what is it? And the can you flip the page around so we can see what these are?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I wanted to nominate Ramona Snyder for chair. She's been on vice chair, I guess.
I'll second the nomination.
I would like to nominate Jerry to be the secretary if he's interested.
I'm interested in helping, but it's something that I have not done before. I have acquired a portable computer. So I will be able to take notes, and I guess now we have the capability of recording our meetings, right, Ken?
Whoops, yeah, yes. Hopefully this has been recorded.
Yeah, it says it is.
Yeah, it said it was when I joined.
Okay, the other concerns I guess it would have is I know Steve does a lot of things other than just write up the minutes. And I'd have to admit, I'm not aware of the other things. I know he has communicated with the neighborhood association. So could you address that, Steve? Do you mind? Just that.
Actually, Jerry, I would say that given my workload,
Yes.
I don't spend a lot of time on the secretary role. I mean, basically, it's sending out the announcements for the meetings, monitoring the email, and respond to any emails that might come in directly to the group, and then, like you said, doing the minutes. That's the bulk of the activity.
Okay, and those inquiries, they come through the website, or do they go to your email?
They go to an email. District 1 has D1LG has its own email address.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And there aren't very many of those. So I would say from a time standpoint, it's probably would end up being less time than your treasurer role.
Oh. Okay.
And I'll also offer to teach you everything I know.
Wonderful. That's comforting. It is truly. I'm truly comforting, and I would appreciate that a lot.
Hey, I'll second Jerry if he's willing to accept it.
Yes, I am.
And I'd like to nominate, where did he go, Bob Levy? For
Well,
treasurer? How about for treasurer? We haven't had you
No,
around.
I'm
for-
not. I just assume not the treasurer.
No?
No, anyway, I had a comment though. Isn't Ramona running for council?
Yes, she is.
So I
Yes, she is.
don't think it's necessarily appropriate. It's almost sort of like an endorsement of the D1 leadership group of her candidacy, and I'm not big on that. I think she'd do an excellent job. She may be very good, but I'm not really big on endorsing either Justin or Ramona for for that role. So I will not be supporting it. I think Gary did an excellent job with sort of or his oversight of Measure B, and I'd like to see him as chair. So that's my
Thank you.
nomination.
But as I mentioned, I have domestic tranquility issues here. I'm on several committees now. I got a considerable amount of time, and let's just say I juggle a lot of balls, and it's I respectfully decline, but thank you.
Okay.
Bob, would you like to be chair?
Well, I've done that job, and
I
I
know.
could do it. I could do
But
it,
it's been
but
a while.
I
You know
think
how
it's
to do it.
maybe somebody else's turn, like yours, Doris.
No, I can't. I can't. I don't have the capability computer-wise to do any of this stuff.
Oh.
So that's why I'm kind of hanging in there as a committee member. I'm happy to help, but
Looks like Justin has a question, comment.
Oh, well, I was going to say I'd certainly support the idea of Bob as chair. And also another idea is Steve Ling. I mean, Steve in particular, during one of our board meetings, you mentioned you had some ideas about trying to expand this group and bring in not just neighborhood associations, but business and other community groups who are based here in West San Jose. So
I do. I think we should be reaching out to other organizations and getting those leaders involved in D1LG. I think that would be a good thing. I think that would be a great thing for the chair to focus on. So yeah, I would be happy to do chair or vice chair. Just beware, I have limited time, but I'm certainly willing to help.
well, if you're willing to do chair, I would second it also.
So it sounds like we have nominations for president, secretary. Treasurer is the big one. It sounds like, Doris, you are going to re-up for committee, just stand as a committee
Yes, I'm
member.
still on there. So I'm
I
wondering
think-
about Gary Smith, and I don't know, I think he was on here.
Yep, Gary, you're here. Are you good with books?
Well, he has a business and he's been active in the English Neighborhood Association. And he attends all the meetings, but we haven't had him on the board. And I'm just wondering he would be interested.
This particular year, maybe in the future, but I'm here, and I think because of other demands I have at the moment, I prefer to respectively decline this year. But thank you for thinking of me.
Okay, well, I know how active you are. That's what it takes, keeping people. We just get moved around.
Yeah, we need someone to take Jerry's job. He's done wonders with keeping us together financially.
Yes, he has.
So we don't have anybody that's left here that is attending the meeting. A person has to be in attendance, right, to be nominated?
I don't.
No, I don't.
Well, that's what it
know.
says, or have agreed to it beforehand.
Yeah.
Ask
Yeah.
prior to the meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Number three.
Yep.
Okay, I thought we could accept nominations up until,
I think up till the
Oh.
next meeting, up till January meeting, right?
yeah, that was what I thought.
And we may have to do this. What we can do is, for the purposes of this meeting, maybe what we do is we table the nominations where we are. We've got the vice mayor speaking, and then I really want to start at 10 o'clock, Katherine Freund, because she's flying in all the way from Maine for today's presentation, and there's going to be some other people joining us as well. So I'd like, if we may have to cut you off, Vice Mayor, at 10 and then come back to it. But and congratulations as new chair of the VTA. I think you'll be really interested in hearing her presentation. And so if that works for everyone, why don't we do that? Why don't we take a break on the nominations, and then maybe someone will come back inspired to be treasurer. And
and vice chair.
Could you recap who we have?
yeah, I think we
Nomination.
have, Steve, do you want to recap, or do you want me to?
Yeah, for chair, Doris nominated Ramona, and then Bob suggested maybe we shouldn't do that. And Gary nominated Bob, who declined. Bob nominated Doris, who declined. And then Justin nominated me, and I did not decline. And for chair, we don't have a nomination. I didn't catch one. For
Oh, I
vice
thought it was
for vice
chair. I
chair,
thought you were chair.
For vice chair, I'm sorry, for vice chair.
No, nothing for vice chair.
And then
For chair.
Secretary Ken nominated Jerry, and he did not decline. And for treasurer, Bob was nominated, but he declined. Doris nominated Gary Smith, he declined. So we don't have a treasurer either yet.
Right. So, and that's the key one. We need, I think those three people, according to Elon Musk. So we need the secretary, the treasurer, and the chair.
So Ken, we don't see you on here for anything. What are you willing to do?
I just don't, unfortunately, I don't think circumstances will allow for me to do that. But so I have to decline respectfully. But why don't we table this for now and then move on to the vice mayor's presentation and give everyone some chance to kind of think about it. And with that, I will show this great picture of the vice mayor. And do you have any slides to share, or is it just going to be?
No, I just want to keep it on that picture. I love that picture.
Well, here, I'll go live. There we go.
Hey, well, first of all, good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. I just want to make sure that, we all keep in mind that, we've gone through a pretty rough, last couple of years, and we're all still standing. Some of us might have lost some loved ones during that period of time, but, we have a lot to be thankful for. And I just want everyone to have a happy safe, and joyous holiday. So I want to transition from that statement to talk about crime. We actually at the last minute invited SJPD to attend this meeting, but because it was last minute, we couldn't get anyone to attend. But I'm getting a lot of emails. I'm seeing a lot of next door postings that people are forwarding to me. Obviously, you know that I've experienced a home burglary during the summer, and a lot of the crimes are becoming more and more brazen, violent, and there's a real concern in the community that things are getting out of hand. I haven't seen the latest police reports and reporting, but typically when I get updates, because our district, relative to the rest of the city, is pretty safe and has low rates of crime, that you might see slight peaks in valleys of reporting of incidents. So it's really hard to say when you look at these police reports, whether there's a really noticeable increase or a hockey stick increase of criminal activity. But we know what we see and we know what we feel in the community. And I know that there's a lot of frustration. Our community is concerned for obvious reasons. There's some fear, and there's just, it feels like there's an attack on our quality of life. I'm not gonna, repeat how we're one of the most understaffed police departments in the country. You all have heard that, and it's not acceptable, and it's not something that we could justify in terms of, what's going on. There's a lot of decisions that are being made that are outside of our control. They're being made at the state level, the county level, and the federal level. And there are laws that are being passed, there are propositions that are being voted on, and all of those things are impacting, what's going on. So as we try at the local level to get resources and address the issue and the problem, we need you as residents and citizens to advocate to your county, state, and federal representatives that we need help. We need support. We need some of these laws changed. We need some of these, we need changing the laws, and we need laws that are enforced. Because what's happening with zero bail, that they're arresting these individuals, they're getting out like same day, and then they're committing more crimes. And then they get arrested again, they get out, and they commit more crimes. As most of you know, I am a supporter of criminal justice reform. There are some people that shouldn't be in jail. There are some people that should have a second chance. There are some people that should have opportunities to turn their lives around. And then there's other people that should be in jail. Oftentimes in society, there's no nuance. It's either we're locking everyone up or we're letting everyone out. And we need to have laws that are going to have nuance and keep the people that need to be in jail, and keep the people that need to be let out or have a second chance let out. So I want to have, meetings with the community, with your neighborhood association, individuals to really, figure out how we can address this at the local level in terms of crime prevention, in terms of working with SJPD to get more police patrols. But the bottom line is, if we don't change some of these laws, this problem is going to continue. I want to talk about development. So obviously Costco is a major project that's gotten a lot of attention. The applicant just submitted their application. We have not assigned someone from the city to work on that yet, but that will be happening soon. But we're going to have the developer community meeting on December 16th at 5:30, and that's going to be via Zoom. So get the word out. We're going to send out notifications via our newsletter, email blasts, social media. So definitely, if you're interested in the whole Costco development, try to attend that meeting, but also there'll be follow-up meetings as well. El Paseo, the EIR has been circulating, and the planning department is holding, or will hold another community meeting in late January. So put that on your calendar. Also, we'll put out more information. We've already started to receive and have received feedback on that project, but keep your eye out for that community meeting. Sb9 implementation. So on this next council meeting, we're going to be discussing Sb9 and opportunity housing. And staff has recommended that we put a pause or stop evaluating opportunity housing and just focus on Sb9. So there's going to be a discussion on that in the December 14th council meeting. So if you're interested in that council discussion and the path forward on Sb9, definitely pay attention and attend that council meeting. Redistricting. We spent a lot of time discussing the maps for redistricting. Doesn't really impact District 1 too much. The biggest change that we're seeing for District 1 is the Santana Row and the surrounding neighborhoods around Santana Row are going to move to District 1. And there's a slight change where we're going to add a couple of additional streets just east of Highway 17. But pretty much that's the only change that's being proposed for District 1. There's some pretty significant changes that are being proposed for some of the other council districts. But for District 1, because we're surrounded by surrounding cities and we just have one side of our district that touches another council district, that we're not impacted too much. Charter review. The Charter Review Commission has finished their report and they're submitting it to council, and we're going to be discussing, evaluating, and making decisions on their recommendations on January 11th. I haven't seen the report yet. I'm going to spend a lot of time over the holidays to look at it. There are certain recommendations that I know I'm going to support. There are other recommendations that I feel pretty strongly that I'm not going to be supporting, but I will update you on the process and progress of that Charter Review Commission. As was mentioned, I've been elected as chair of VTA, as well as I'm going to be serving as the president of the Cities Association. So if I didn't have enough on my plate already, vice mayor, president of the Cities Association, VTA chair. So Gary was talking about domestic tranquility issues. I think I'm going to have some major ones with Kelly on this one. But I only have a year left. You know, I want to try to get as much done in that year. And you should feel good about the fact that you have your council representative that's also in the VTA chair seat, as well as the Cities Association president. So I can at least drive and push forwards, you know, policy and initiatives that are going to benefit our council district in the West Valley. So that's really good news. I want to pass it over to Anna Lee, who will give you an update on a couple of other major issues and items that are of interest to this group. So Anna Lee.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for having our office. I just really quickly wanted to go through vehicle abatement because our office has been receiving over the past few months a lot of emails about vehicles parking for extended periods of time and not being removed by the vehicle abatement team. So the vice mayor and I recently had a meeting with the Department of Transportation in an effort to try to find ways to secure funding for them so that they could expand their current scope, the criteria that they're using to determine whether or not to remove certain types of vehicles throughout the district and the city. So that funding ended up we weren't able to actually utilize that funding. It was ARPA funding, and we weren't able to secure that specific pot of funding, but we're still looking for creative ways to secure money for the department to help expand the current scope. So they're currently taking a proactive approach where they drive through the city and they tag the most egregious cases instead of a reactive approach where they're just responding to 311 inquiries. They do check 311 inquiries, but they will only respond to those vehicles that meet the criteria. So our office's goal is to give the department the resources that they need to expand it. And it's just important that you continue to report to 311 and then forward our office the case numbers. And based on that, we can follow up with the department and see what can be done. But we just wanted to set the expectations and acknowledge that we understand it's frustrating. I mean, I live in the district and there's cars parked on my street as well for extended periods of time. So we're going to continue trying to work with the department to see what can be done to address vehicles that are problematic in the district. So I think that was the main update that I was going to give. I'll pass it back to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Lee. Rania will also give an update.
Good morning, everybody. So I just have some brief updates about having to do with transportation. One of them actually has to do with our effort continuing to work with neighboring cities to bring high capacity transit to Stevens Creek Boulevard. I don't know if you noticed Justin's message in the chat there, but we are having a meeting, a committee meeting, steering committee meeting with a couple electeds from each of the cities and the county to talk about a vision study scope. And so this is just one of the initial steps that we would need to agree on and moving forward with a vision study scope to even start to entertain the form of transit that could come to Stevens Creek Boulevard. So I did post the link in the chat there if you're interested to join. And then just one other update. I know at the last meeting there was interest to learn more about upcoming bikeway improvements. So we actually will invite DOT to come to the next meeting if you are willing. They will kind of give an overview of what to expect in District 1, as well as upcoming road pavement schedule the next year. Some major corridors in District 1 are on the schedule for repavement next year, and that's Winchester and Stevens Creek Boulevard. And that's all I have for today.
All right. Thank you, Rania. So that's the end of our report. And Ken, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, yeah, Doris, if I noticed there's a couple hands raised, if we can hold the questions till after Catherine's presentation, that'd be great, because like I said, she flew in from Maine to join us, and let me just preface her presentation with how I met her. It was a couple of years ago at a smart driving car summit in New Jersey, and a lot of great presentations there. There were terrific presentations about the future of mobility, and she came on and spoke and blew everyone away. So it's something that her organization has been, providing this idea of helping seniors transition from driver seats to the passenger seat and helping seniors with mobility. And in San Jose alone, we have 125,000 people who are 65 plus. And so with that, I think there's a definite need here. And Katherine comes to us from Maine. So I want to thank you for joining us, Katherine, and I will bring up your presentation, which is right here, I believe. With that, I want to thank you very much, Katherine. And as we turn it over to before you leave, as we turn it over to the Vice Mayor, especially as his additional role as chair of the VTA, just wondering if you have any comments or thoughts.
Oh, the only comment that I have is I would love to continue to work with you and figure out a way that VTA as well as the city of San Jose can support this initiative. I think it's would be really valuable for our community and beneficial. So I look forward to working with you and others to try to make something happen.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you all for your attention.
And Sam, similarly, for West Valley Community Services point of view, do you want an introduction as well, or do you have her contact information? Or did we lose Sam? Might have lost Sam. So, okay. Well, in that case, I guess we can go back to our regularly scheduled meeting. Katherine, again, thank you for joining us all the way from Maine. And
my pleasure.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to all of you too, and good health to all of you too.
Thank you.
Okay.
So there were a couple of questions in the chat, and perhaps you want to address those, Vice Mayor, and then we'll go back to the nomination process.
Yeah, so there was a question that came up about additional funding. First of all, can we not use the terminology like slush fund? It just, I just feel like, you know, it's a it's a term that just has such a negative connotation. So anything but slush fund. But yeah, so there was a question about available funds to do additional projects above and beyond D1 decides. I'm not aware of any additional funds that are available. I know there was a remaining balance on D1 decides, and once we allocate those remaining funds to the projects, if there's any additional balance left over, that's something that we could look at in terms of using for something else. But as far as another pot of money, I'm not aware of any. I know Rania checked on it with the city clerk's office, and they're not, they said there wasn't an additional pot of money that we could tap into. I know that other council districts were referenced in terms of having, say, money that will set aside for trees.
Right.
We are working with our city arborists as well as our city florist, not our city forest, to identify, you know, sources of funding and plant trees in our district. I know we have one resident who identified 12 dead trees or dying trees. So we're working with him to figure out a way to get those trees removed and plant new trees. So we are working to address, you know, the issues around trees and tap into sources of funding. But as far as a particular pot of money, we don't know about or have access to that.
So they're not doing that anymore. You got the 100,000 for D1 decides for 2 years, I guess.
I'm sorry, Doris, you cut out on me.
I guess my isn't working well. You got the money for the 2 D1 decides years, but then they don't do that anymore?
No,
that
we're
what
not
you're
doing
saying?
that anymore.
Okay, so nothing last year, nothing this year. You
No,
just got
we
to
stopped.
scrounge for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that initiative has been stopped or no
Okay,
longer.
so our tax dollars are no longer going to benefit the local residents. They're going somewhere else, right?
No, that's not accurate either. Again, you know, if you have trees that you want to have planted or identified dead trees or trees that are in distress, you know, work with me in my office. We're working with, you know, our city arborists, and we'll come up with a plan to try to get those trees planted. So
Okay.
yeah, that's where we are.
Thank you for addressing that. Actually, it was Ken that came up with this word slush fund, so don't blame it on me.
I'm not gonna point the finger. I'm not gonna point the finger at anyone. It's just like,
Thank you.
we're not using slush fund.
Yeah, and let me clarify what I meant by slush fund. It used to be before we did the D1 participatory budget, there was always like 2 million allocated for the total council, and then it was split up depending on needs and stuff, and you'd have to go in there and kind of fight for, the 200,000 or whatever the number was. And I think that's what we were talking about. And then we went to the D1 participatory budgeting, and then did it go back to that 2 million pool that, that was I think where it came from.
Yes, and it did go back to that process. The only problem was that was in the middle of COVID. And so our city budget cratered, and, we didn't have access to the full pot of money, and we had to make some tough trade-offs. So hopefully coming out of COVID, we can go back to that normal process. And that's all driven by our budget requests. So each council office out of that pot of money, makes budget requests. And I hear from Doris and other members of the community all the time in terms of, can you request money for this or that? And we make the requests. And during the mayor's budget process, some requests he'll accept and some he won't. And then we vote on it as a council, and we move forward. And it really is an issue of also priority. I have to make decisions in terms of allocating or requesting money for trees versus fixing potholes or putting speed bumps in or crosswalks. So, I mean, it really is a trade-off in terms of priorities.
I just want to thank Anna Lee for comment that she's working with, I don't know, the 311 for getting the vehicles removed. And I want to commend the fire station on Blaney. I'm not sure 15 or 16. I don't remember their number. We had a truck that had been parked on Castle Glen, a very busy street, that some kid almost got hurt because of a car and a bike and so on. And we couldn't get the city to do anything. It had a gas tank sitting on the ground behind it. It was open. You could see the gas in there. City wouldn't do anything. I finally went over to the fire station and I said, it's like a fire hazard. Can you do something? And they came over after hours and pinged the police, and finally the police showed up and we got the thing moved. But the city wouldn't do a doggone thing except for the fire station's help. So anyway, I just want to throw a commendation out to them and hope Anna Lee gets some help in the future with this problem.
Thank you, Doris. I see Steve has his hand up.
I had a couple of things really quickly. One thing is we talked about 311, and just a reminder that there is the 311 app, not just the phone. You can download the app on your phone, and it's actually very useful. I've used it quite a bit. So,
Yeah, I recommend using the 311 app, but also I want to make sure everybody's expectations are set. So, like for instance, abandoned vehicles. Right now, we have a very narrow criteria in terms of the vehicles that are being towed or ticketed. And there's a disconnect between expectations. You file a report through the app, and then you'll get a response, that says that the report has been closed. And you might not even get a full explanation as to why, but oftentimes those reports are closed, the vehicle is still sitting there, and it's because it didn't meet those narrow criteria in terms of what we tow or what we ticket. As Annalee mentioned in her readout, we made a budget request to provide funding to expand the criteria. We're working hard to get that request through, and if we are, we'll be able to ticket and tow more vehicles. But I just want to make sure that everybody's expectation is set in terms of when they make or they file a report on certain issues, that it might not meet your expectations. And that's a concern that we've raised several times.
I use the app for other purposes, and it worked well for that. So
yeah. Graffiti, it's working really well.
Yeah, and dumping and things like that.
Yes.
The other thing is, are there any specific laws that you would highlight going back to crime? Are there any laws that you would highlight as being most significant in terms of impacting the recent crime rate?
I would say one is the zero bail and just the, immediate or early release of suspects. Literally, I had a conversation with our police and they said literally they're arresting people and they're out, the same day. So imagine how, one, demoralizing that is for our police department. And two, the fact that, the suspects are committing crimes, they're being arrested. They know they're not going to have to go to jail, spend time in jail, so they just come right back out and continue their activities. So I think if you're talking about something immediate or short term that we can change or fix, that will help mitigate some of the issues, I think that would be a big one.
Okay, you didn't mention Prop 47. I see a lot of talk about that.
Yeah, I have some concerns about Prop 47, and just for transparency, I did vote for it. But like everything else, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I still believe in the concept, if we can figure out ways of moving people who are incarcerated to, employment and self-sufficiency and, paying taxes, I think that's a good thing. But, we pass these laws or vote for these propositions and, one half of the equation doesn't take place. So we release people, but we don't provide, mental health services or, drug addiction resources or employment or, counseling. It's just like, we just let people out and we don't provide the other half of the equation. So, in hindsight, I don't think Prop 47 was the right approach, but it would take another proposition to reverse it.
Right.
But again, I just want to reiterate that I am a big believer in criminal justice reform. You just have to do it the right way, and you have to do it smart, and you have to use common sense.
Thank you.
Oh, is it hot?
I don't see any other hands raised. Any other questions?
It's like Carlin.
I'm sorry, what was that, Doris?
Looks like Carlin put his hand up. I don't know if he's trying to raise his hand. If so, he's muted.
So
go ahead, Carlin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, you're muted again.
No, I just lowered my hand, but I do appreciate that whole thing, and I again want to never mind. I'll do this by email.
Okay, Carlin.
Looks like Amy has her hand up.
Hi, Chappie. Could you just give us an update on where the city is in our housing element development? I've been trying to follow a little bit Saratoga and Campbell, but where is San Jose in preparing for our RENA reporting?
That's a great question, Amy. Let me make a note of that, and I can follow up with you, and we can get the information out to everybody in the group in terms of where we are. I don't have an update for you right now. I need to loop back with our planning department and get more information on where they are.
I think on Monday they're doing a session focused on fair housing, but I know at a recent planning commission meeting for Saratoga, just as a point of information, that they are planning to put a lot of the density in a few areas. And one is the Westgate area. And they specifically said, well, look, El Paseo has, at one location, 155 dwelling units per acre. And so there was a suggestion to put the same thing in the Saratoga portion of that block. So just to point out, El Paseo and what San Jose is looking at in our big commercial area, the surrounding jurisdictions, as to be expected, are taking the lead, are taking a cue and looking to match what San Jose is approving. And and that's the place to put density, but there's definitely going to be, a lot of cumulative impact on transportation and traffic and things.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that the jurisdictions are communicating as much as possible.
Actually, they are. There's a planning collaborative it's actually initiated and overseen by the Cities Association. So all 15 cities in Santa Clara County are involved with that planning collaborative. So they're working together and they're coordinating and they're learning as they go. And there's a lot of new information, new rules that are coming out of the state, like feels like every day. And so all the cities are working together to try to understand what's going on and work together to try to at least collaborate and coordinate their housing elements and their plans.
And it's especially challenging as a resident to kind of keep up with. It's a lot to keep up with what your own city is doing and planning, and then to know what other cities are planning just across the street or just a few blocks away. It is extra challenging here on the border. So just to share that.
So we'll make a note of that, but we'll follow up with you and follow up with us to get you more specific information that you need. Okay.
So Ken, I do have a pretty hard stop around 11, maybe just after.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty close. Well, we are 4 minutes. So the last thing on our agenda was we need a treasurer, I think, right? Is that our opening position?
And vice chair.
Okay. The critical one though is treasurer. I think, treasurer, secretary, chair are the three that we need. So do we hear any nominations for treasurer? Or do we have to, you can, I guess we could take them all the way up to January, right?
I thought we could, but I don't see that in the bylaws specifically. We'll have.
I have somebody to suggest, but she couldn't find the link to get on the meeting. And so I'll have to ask her afterwards. She's attended several of our meetings and she's involved in other activities. So I had asked her if she'd like to be considered to be on the board, and but I can't throw her name out here unless I ask her.
And also, I would think Jerry would continue to be treasurer until we pick someone new, right?
Yes, no problem. I can do that.
So with that, we are at 10:57. And everyone has Steve's email or the d1leadershipgroup@gmail.com. So I guess if you have any ideas for nominees for the treasurer spot, you can let him know.
Yeah, Ken, I think the smart thing to do is we should maybe send out an email with the nominations we have so far.
Perfect.
Maybe we could send out a very focused email just to let people know to the group.
Yeah, and when is the next meeting? What do we decide for the? Right now, it looks like we still won't be able to meet in person, right?
Yeah, the library is not opening up, and I think we were trying to move back to the second Saturday of odd number months.
So that would be January, so everyone can get it on their calendar here. What is it, January?
Because this is actually the November meeting that we're having now.
Yeah, we kind of got caught up with the holiday and everything.
January 15th. Wait a minute. No, technically it'd be the 8th.
Yeah. It would be January 8th. Does that sound like it would work for everyone?
I'm wondering if we should maybe target the 15th because the 8th might be
too soon after New Year's.
After the first of the year, people are still getting their feet on the ground.
And the only thing I'm looking, the only disadvantage to the 15th is it's Martin Luther King weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, we can stay with the 8th.
I think it's worthwhile being consistent. If you're gonna do the second Saturday, do the second Saturday.
Yeah, that is our goal. And I'm trying to get the library room reserved. They won't do reservations until the room opens. So yeah, let's go with second Saturday.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you very much for being here, and have a great holiday season. And I guess we'll see you in 2022.
Yeah.
Wow.
Happy holidays, happy new year.
Happy everything. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thanks.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank
You
you.
as well.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.